Most people think the end of a narcissist's life is loud, a dramatic collapse marked by chaos, accusations, and public spectacle. Movies and popular culture reinforce this notion, showing narcissists being exposed or humiliated in front of crowds. Yet the most dangerous endings are rarely public. Carl Jung warned that when a personality is built entirely on illusion, time does not heal it. It fractures quietly, internally, without fanfare. When admiration dries up, control stops functioning, and age erodes the ability to maintain the carefully constructed mask. They do not heal from it. Instead, they unravel, and unlike death, they are forced to endure it fully conscious, aware of every falter and loss. This slow internal collapse is invisible, yet profoundly destabilizing, both for them and anyone still connected to their world. Here's the central question. What happens to a narcissist when the audience disappears, when there is no one left to validate their existence? This is not a theoretical exercise. Every narcissist relies on constant social feedback to maintain their grandiose self-image. Without it, the world becomes a mirror reflecting only emptiness, exposing the hollowness of their identity. In this video, you will discover 5 deeply disturbing patterns that surface as the mask dies. Recognizing these patterns is crucial if you want to protect yourself from being pulled back into their orbit and to stop waiting for closure that will never arrive. Understanding these behaviors allows you to respond intelligently and maintain your psychological safety. The first truth is the quiet death of the mask. It arrives subtly, in moments that seem minor, even humiliating, but its implications are profound. You watch a man who once commanded attention and controlled every room try to assert authority once more. He interrupts conversations, drops cutting remarks, waits for the silence to signal compliance. But this time, no one reacts the way he expects. Confusion replaces fear, pity replaces admiration. Outsiders might chalk this up to aging or forgetfulness, but what fails is not memory, it's the persona. In Jungian terms, the persona is the social face, the interface the psyche uses to engage with the world. For most, it is a tool, separate from the true self. For the narcissist, the persona is all there is. The narcissist identifies completely with this mask, believing the illusion they project is the sum of who they are. Maintaining it consumes nearly all of their psychic energy. Jung described libido as the life force driving the psyche. And for the narcissist, nearly all of it is spent sustaining the illusion. This requires immense mental agility, physical vitality, and emotional stamina, resources that inevitably diminish with age. Biological reality dictates that the energy to maintain charm, wit, and manipulation diminishes over time. Slowly, they can no longer wield influence, control perception, or suppress their underlying inadequacy. The defenses they relied on for decades begin to collapse, exposing the hollow structure beneath what everyone once admired as confidence, dominance, and charisma. You see this in real-world scenarios. The once powerful executive who could silence a boardroom or a dinner table with a glance struggles to control a family gathering. Cutting remarks fall flat, timing falters, and once intimidated listeners now regard him with confusion or pity. He is not merely aging, he is experiencing the death of his identity. There is no deeper self to compensate. Where a healthy individual might adopt a reflective, softer persona in later years, the narcissist has nothing but empty authority to fall back on. The mask slipping is devastating because it leaves nothing behind, just exposure and confusion, often triggering anger or embarrassment as the once invincible performance collapses publicly and privately. This unraveling is not purely social. It manifests physically. Consider the woman who once maintained immaculate beauty, flawless makeup, and designer attire to elicit admiration. As the mask dies, the effort to maintain it disappears. She might abandon grooming, live in cluttered spaces, and neglect her appearance entirely. It is a psychological and physical decay intertwined. Without an audience, the need to perform evaporates, leaving only the ordinariness they spent a lifetime avoiding. Ordinary existence is existentially terrifying for a narcissist. Their identity, entirely external, cannot survive ordinariness. Once exposed, behavior becomes rigid, transactional, and devoid of empathy. Family members often misinterpret this as a sudden personality change, unaware they are witnessing the first authentic expression of the raw, undeveloped self. This exposure unleashes energy previously bound to maintaining the mask. Jungian psychology suggests that unused psychic energy regresses into the unconscious, activating primitive layers of the psyche. The narcissist does not become peaceful, they become unstable. The life force once spent on charm now fuels frustration, resentment, and defensiveness. Emotional volatility grows. Every small disappointment or perceived slight triggers disproportionate rage. Minor conflicts, like a delayed meal or a misplaced object, ignite intense reactions as suppressed aggression surfaces unchecked. Without a controlling ego to mediate, the narcissist responds instinctively, primitively. Projections increase. They see their own failings in others and lash out, turning those closest to them into the primary recipients of psychological attacks, magnifying tension and chaos in previously calm spaces. Truth, too, emerges once the persona collapses. The shadow takes over. With the mask gone, the unconscious traits the narcissist suppressed for decades surge forward. Jung described the shadow as containing everything an individual denies or represses: weaknesses, envy, aggression, and suppressed impulses. The narcissist's shadow is dense, heavy, and unforgiving. It holds decades of unacknowledged resentment, shame, and hostility. As the ego falters with age and diminishing energy, these suppressed traits flood conscious awareness. The saint becomes tyrant, the generous miser, the victimizer aggressor. The transformation is not randomness. It is the inevitable inversion described by Jungian enantiodromia, the principle that extreme emphasis on one trait eventually gives rise to its opposite. The shadow does not negotiate, it asserts itself fully. You witness this in family dynamics. A mother who spent decades performing martyrdom may become cruel and vindictive in old age. A once sweet grandmother may scream at children or reject help, projecting decades of suppressed frustration and envy onto those who care for her. Similarly, narcissistic elders often weaponize envy. They cannot bear to see the vitality of younger generations. Grandchildren's successes or youth may provoke resentment rather than pride. Every achievement they witness becomes a reflection of their own decline. Caregiving triggers rage because dependency is a humiliating admission of weakness. Those providing help become targets, as the narcissist seeks to reestablish dominance psychologically when physical or social authority is gone. The shadow also exploits physical frailty, using illness as leverage. Exaggerating symptoms, refusing medication, or creating crises forces others to attend to them, exerting control through vulnerability. They demand attention not through charm, but through fear, guilt, or chaos. Emotional regulation collapses. Tantrums, tantrum-like reactions, and disproportionate anger become routine. Projection dominates. Every weakness they possess is attributed to others. Those providing support, adult children, caregivers, spouses, bear the brunt of this displaced aggression. Their intent to help is misinterpreted as control, interference, or judgment, perpetuating conflict and suffering, while the narcissist exercises dominance through chaos, manipulation, and psychological torment. Yet they look you in the eye and accuse you of abandoning them. They accuse the most honest caregiver of stealing, the most loyal spouse of being selfish. In these moments, they are not consciously lying. They are projecting. They see their own internal selfishness, their internal theft of peace, and the abandonment of genuine connection reflected on the faces of those around them. This projection is a psychological hallucination. They genuinely perceive others as selfish or cruel because acknowledging their own failings is too excruciating. The weight of their own moral and emotional debts is unbearable, and so they vomit it outward, turning loved ones into scapegoats for their unresolved internal chaos, perpetuating a cycle of conflict that isolates them further. This domination by the shadow creates a vicious feedback loop. By acting out their most destructive impulses, narcissists drive away the very people who might have cared for them. Yet the shadow is irrational. When friends, family, or caregivers withdraw, the narcissist interprets it not as a consequence of their behavior, but as proof that the world is hostile, that they are victims. They double down, believing they are fighting to defend their honor or their existence, when in truth they are locked in a battle with the darkest parts of themselves. Aggression, envy, and bitterness become amplified, leaving everyone around them walking on eggshells to avoid provoking further outbursts, while the narcissist remains trapped in self-generated torment. You watch them become a grotesque caricature of their former selves. Traits once tempered by social feedback now calcify into extremes. The stingy become misers, refusing to turn on the heat or share resources, even when it harms themselves. The critical become verbally abusive, cutting and humiliating those closest to them. Every social inhibition or polite restraint they once maintained disappears, leaving raw, unfiltered shadow energy in its place. This rigidity and bitterness create a living war zone. Their final years are often dominated by psychological conflict, not peace, as the narcissist attacks anyone in proximity to avoid facing the emptiness inside their own hearts. The shadow leaves no room for redemption or serenity, only conflict and chaos. I'd like to hear from you. What changed when the mask slipped and the anger became open? Did you witness cruelty, relentless bitterness, or attempts at controlling everyone around them? Comment shadow and share your experience. Understanding these patterns is critical because once aggression drives everyone away, the narcissist is left with nothing external to manipulate or provoke. This leads to a new and even more terrifying stage where silence turns inward. Alone with no audience, no supply, and no mirror reflecting their image, the narcissist confronts a reality they have avoided for decades, and the consequences of that encounter are devastating. Truth 3 emerges, alone with nothing inside. This is not the solitude that a healthy person experiences. For most people, being alone allows reflection, creativity, or inner peace. For the narcissist, isolation is existentially horrifying because they possess no inner life. Their psyche has been constructed entirely around external validation. When the people who provided attention, admiration, or practical support leave through death, distancing, or self-preservation, the narcissist is left with a void. They did not form genuine relationships or internalized attachments. Instead, their connections were functional, transactional. People were objects serving purposes, affirming their grandeur, regulating emotions, or providing services. The loss of these objects triggers panic, not grief. In this stage, they do not mourn the person, but the function. When a spouse of decades dies, the narcissist's reaction is often logistical, not emotional. Who will cook my meals? Who will drive me? They ask, bypassing the emotional reality of loss entirely. Their concern is immediate utility, not connection. This reveals that they never truly valued people as individuals, only for what they provided. When left alone, the narcissist faces a terrifying emptiness. No internal hobbies, spiritual practices, or self-reflective capacities exist to sustain them. Their mind becomes a vacuum, a frozen waiting room for external stimulation. Without supply, their psychic energy stagnates, creating a suffocating sense of nothingness that is profoundly painful. This psychological stagnation manifests in desperate, attention-seeking behavior. Any response is preferable to indifference. Hatred confirms existence. Neglect erases it. In hospitals or care facilities, this can become extreme. An elderly narcissist might call the emergency button repeatedly for trivial reasons, watching caregivers rush in, anxious and frustrated. The momentary disruption becomes a source of psychic relief. Even negative attention reflects back a sense of power, filling the void left by an absent inner life. They rely on others as regulatory objects to manage their emptiness. Without them, the narcissist cannot generate warmth, satisfaction, or self-comfort. Their existence depends on provoking a reaction, no matter how small, to confirm they are still present in the world. Emotional object constancy, the ability to feel connection to a loved one in their absence, is absent. A healthy individual draws comfort from memory or knowledge of love even when alone. The narcissist cannot. If you are not physically present, they cease to exist emotionally. This makes isolation absolute and terrifying. Holidays, anniversaries, or silent rooms become unbearable. Without immediate praise, attention, or interaction, they experience existential erasure. Some lash out with calls or voicemails, accusing loved ones of abandonment not out of sorrow, but as a desperate attempt to provoke a reaction and confirm their continued existence. Even the environment begins reflecting the emptiness within, often descending into clutter, chaos, or hoarding as a failed attempt to fill the psychological void. They surround themselves with matter because they lack spirit. In some cases, they attempt to fill the emptiness with clutter, collecting objects without purpose, hoping the physical presence of things can mask the absence of self. In other cases, they surrender entirely to decay. Hygiene, maintenance, and even basic care are abandoned. The house becomes a mirror of the psyche, rotting alongside their mind. Jung taught that the outer world reflects the inner world, and here it is painfully literal. Chaos in the home signals chaos in the mind. They have no libido left to invest in either. What remains is a barren, mechanical existence where survival occurs by default, not intention. Their inner emptiness is projected outward, leaving both space and life in ruin. This state of being alone with nothing inside is the inevitable result of a lifetime spent prioritizing dominance over intimacy. Power, by its nature, isolates. To maintain control, you must distance yourself from others, place yourself above them, and guard your position constantly. Intimacy requires vulnerability, equality, and trust, qualities the narcissist has actively rejected at every turn. They chose to be right rather than close, to control rather than connect. Now, at the end of life, they have achieved the ultimate sovereignty, complete control over their world. But it is a hollow victory. The domain they rule is empty, their subjects gone. The prize is solitude, confinement within a barren mind, with no hand to hold and no one to care. This is the ultimate quiet tragedy of the narcissistic life, surrounded by silence and realizing, too late, that the silence originates from within. There is no audience left, no admiration, no emotional sustenance. The years of manipulations, performances, and control have left them entirely alone, confronting the void they never built the capacity to face. In the next stage, this internal silence becomes unbearable. The narcissist's mind, unable to tolerate the emptiness, begins to fracture reality itself rather than confront the void. This brings us to Truth 4, the descent into paranoia, delusion, and the total dissolution of reality testing, where internal projections dominate every perception. When silence becomes unbearable, the narcissistic mind cracks under the pressure. The ego, always fragile, requires conflict, drama, and external threats to maintain its boundaries. If those stimuli vanish, friends gone, phone silent, world unresponsive, the mind manufactures them. The narcissist's psyche cannot exist without external validation, so it begins projecting internal guilt, fear, and self-hatred outward, transforming hallucinations into perceived reality. They no longer recognize internal states as their own. The world itself becomes dangerous. People become conspirators, and the environment a minefield of imagined threats. Their inner fear of helplessness and decline manifests externally, creating a paranoid narrative in which everyone is plotting, spying, or betraying them. This manifests painfully in familiar contexts: finances, possessions, or caregiving. An elderly narcissist may accuse a devoted daughter of theft, screaming about a bank statement or a piece of jewelry as if it were a witnessed crime. In reality, the item is misplaced or forgotten. Accepting this would require admitting fallibility and cognitive decline, which their fragile ego cannot tolerate. Instead, the mind invents a villain. The daughter becomes the thief, a necessary enemy to preserve the mother's self-image. Evidence is irrelevant. Confirmation of suspicion suffices. Reality testing collapses entirely. A kind gesture from a nurse is interpreted as deceit, and everyday events are reframed into conspiracies, demonstrating the complete dissolution of objectivity. If the nurse is distant, every gesture, every pause is interpreted as proof of guilt. Every small discrepancy in reality is twisted to confirm the narcissist's pre-existing delusion. This fracturing of perception extends beyond the present, creeping backward into memory. Family members witness the devastating phenomenon known as retroactive falsification. Happy memories are erased or rewritten. A family vacation from decades past becomes evidence of manipulation and suffering. The narcissist insists they were miserable, that everyone else was selfish, that the joy you recall was a lie. This is not deceit for strategic gain. It is a genuine internal rewriting of history. The past becomes a weapon, reshaped to validate present bitterness and reinforce the shadow's dominance, ensuring rage remains justified. By poisoning the past, the narcissist secures the present. Memories of love, care, or joy are erased to maintain the narrative of victimhood. If they acknowledged that they were loved or treated well, they would lose the psychological foundation for their current cruelty. The shadow depends on this selective memory. It justifies ongoing anger, paranoia, and aggression. Every slight, every perceived betrayal is magnified, creating a world of enemies that protects the narcissist from facing their own emptiness. Paranoia provides purpose, a reason to rise each day, to assert control, to mobilize adrenaline. They become vigilant, scheming, and defensive. Reality becomes a minefield, each interaction a potential threat, every loved one a reflection of the chaos within their own psyche. This often manifests in obsessive, controlling behaviors. Doors are locked repeatedly, documents are hidden, bank accounts checked constantly, conversations recorded and scrutinized, notes catalog suspicious neighbors, delivery personnel, and acquaintances. Every action is a desperate attempt to impose order on a reality that is entirely subjective. The external world becomes a stage for their internal torment. No amount of surveillance or control can resolve the chaos because the phantom they battle exists within their own decaying mind. Families and caregivers watch in disbelief as someone who once appeared composed and charming devolves into a hermetic, paranoid figure, convinced of a world conspiring against them. Every accusation, every confrontation is both genuine and hallucinatory. This phase is psychologically torturous for those around them because the narcissist speaks with unwavering certainty. Their delusions are presented as indisputable truth. It mirrors the gaslighting of their youth, but without conscious intent. This is no longer strategy, it is survival. The narcissist is not attempting to manipulate you, they are attempting to keep themselves from unraveling. Boundaries between self and other have collapsed. They perceive their own greed, cruelty, and fear in every person around them. Every reflection becomes monstrous. They live within a private horror film, surrounded by enemies that exist only in their fractured mind. Exhausted by a lifelong war waged internally, they die defending themselves against specters of their own creation, trapped in a private hell where reality and trust are impossible. We now arrive at the final and most disturbing truth: ego death without a self. When the ego collapses, there is no inner self to survive it. This is not merely fear of dying, it is a catastrophic psychological failure. Jung called this the failure of individuation, the inability to transition from ego-centered living to a deeper, integrated self. The second half of life, ideally, is a shift from external achievement to internal wholeness. The first half builds careers, identities, and social power, the ego. The second half should foster individuation, connecting with the deeper self that integrates conscious and unconscious, that allows for acceptance, meaning, and peace independent of others' perceptions. The narcissist has no foundation beneath the ego. There is no self to sustain them. A person who has successfully engaged in the process of individuation can face the end of life with a sense of surrender. They understand that their value does not depend on accolades, appearances, or social dominance. Their worth is no longer tethered to how others perceive them. They have cultivated an internal landscape, a grounded self that remains stable even as the body deteriorates and social roles vanish. They can let go of the ego because they have found the self. The narcissist, by contrast, reaches the final stage having never developed this inner substance. Their entire existence has been devoted to inflating an external facade, believing that their identity is the persona, the wealth they accrued, the control they exerted, and the admiration they commanded. As the end approaches, the biological imperative forces surrender of the ego, and this is catastrophic for the narcissist. For them, the ego is not a tool. It is the totality of reality itself. To lose it is not a transition, but a psychological annihilation. Panic floods their consciousness. Decades of denial crumble under the weight of undeniable decay. The specialness they clung to, the belief in their invincibility, is revealed as illusion. They confront a universe governed by impartial laws, indifferent to their demands or superiority. The terror is existential, a recognition that they do not exist outside the perception of others. Without an audience, they feel erased, ceasing to exist while still alive. This panic drives them into a desperate retreat into history. The narcissist possesses no inner life, no spiritual framework, no anticipation of personal growth. The future is a void, and the present is unbearable. The only refuge is memory, though not in a reflective sense. They compulsively recount past achievements, youth, power, beauty, and status, demanding validation from anyone nearby. They point to a photo from decades ago and insist on agreement that they were the most admired, the most powerful, the most exceptional. This is not nostalgia, it is a lifeboat in a storm, an attempt to stave off the annihilation of their ego by constructing a raft from the past. When the observer fails to provide the awe required, they erupt in rage, confronted with the emptiness of the present that they cannot fill. The final stage is marked by total absence of peace or introspection. There is no deathbed clarity, no acknowledgement of harm done, no apology. Those hopes assume the presence of a self capable of reflection and empathy. The narcissist lacks this foundation entirely. Defense mechanisms hardened over decades do not vanish. They ossify. Hypervigilance toward their body and environment is common. Minor aches or discomforts are interpreted as catastrophic threats. Doctors, nurses, and caregivers are treated as incompetent or negligent. The natural decline of aging is experienced as a profound injustice. They cannot find meaning in suffering, cannot integrate pain into growth or wisdom. Instead, suffering is a confirmation of the universe's cruelty and their victimhood. In desperation to maintain control, the narcissist manipulates even their posthumous influence. Wills are altered repeatedly, secrets whispered selectively, and family members set against one another. This is not a legacy of guidance or love, it is a legacy of domination. Even at death, they seek to orchestrate events to assert significance, ensuring their presence continues to disrupt lives long after they are gone. Despite the proximity of family, Despite hands held or words of comfort offered, they remain unreachable. The gap between their desire for eternal adoration and the undeniable mortality of the human body is insurmountable. Love cannot fill the void where the self should reside. They die strangers to themselves, having spent a lifetime avoiding connection.